Good morning to you, listeners in Guyana, in New York, in France, in Germany, in England, in the Caribbean, in South Africa, wherever you are. Good morning to you. Well, I mean, some places it's night, it's afternoon. You know, in London it's afternoon. In Paris, sorry, in Japan is it's in the afternoon. You know, so good morning slash good afternoon to you wherever you are, and it's a pleasure to be in your company today. Let me put on some lights because the place is ridiculously dark. You know, um, we're in New York, of course, and it's daytime, but it's extremely overcast. There's a serious storm that is blowing in from the west, and I understand that while it may not rain, I'm not sure what's going on, but while it may not rain today, we were expecting to have, or we are expecting to have some heavy, heavy, heavy winds. All right. But just to make sure, let me be sure. The temperature right now is 63 degrees, 63 degrees, but it's still dark. I can imagine how the people in Barbados and St. Vincent and the Grenadines felt when the volcano was erupting and the clouds of ashes were, or the clouds of ash were over them. You know, because if this is just rain clouds and we're dark as moonsit comparatively, I can imagine how they were. But in Guyana, I understand they've been having a lot of rain recently. I'm not sure if the current situation is um, predicting rain or sun, but we should get some more information later on in that regard. On international scene, we had a very tragic situation happening or occurring overnight where there was a massive stampede at a function in Israel overnight. 44 people died. 44 persons not just died. 44 persons were crushed, savagely crushed in that stampede, and there are 100 and something other persons who are injured. It's crazy. Yeah, I mean the word is gone again. Crazy, right? So, then in India, I'm not hearing anything from the Guyanese government about the situation in India. The same people who the Guyanese government were appealing to during the elections for help, and now that the Indians need help, even if it's just a comforting word, I'm not hearing anything from the Guyanese government, going India's way. India is creating records and breaking them every religious day. Yesterday, India recorded more than 375,000 new cases of COVID-19, positive cases of COVID-19. And the deaths, well, don't let us talk about that. You know, but I'm going to get back to that later on in the show because they got some hard-headed, some knuckleheads in Guyana who still don't understand that you cannot run around as you like because you will get sick. And when you get sick, you will make other people sick. And when those people get sick, you will cause people to die. So I understand that the government has some system in place to ensure that people who breach the COVID-19 regulations will be penalized, tangibly too. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do, but they say they're going to penalize them. All right. This morning we are on the crest, so to speak, of celebration or the observance of Labor Week in Guyana, and we are blessed and highly favored on this show to have the company of one of the long-serving labor persons, labor officials, labor officers. Well, not necessarily an officer, but one of the labor representatives, in Guyana for quite a number of years. A lady who holds at least 2 labor caps that I know of. She's going to join us, and I speak of no other than the one and only Coretta Mcdonald, the Honorable Member of Parliament. I know that Coretta is the General Secretary of the Guyana Teachers Union, but I also understand that she serves, most distinguished service to be sized in the capacity of the president. I understand. I stand to be corrected, or I stand corrected. She serves as the president of the Guyana Labor Union. We want to say good morning and welcome to Miss Coretta Mcdonald, the Honorable Member of Parliament. Back to the show.
Good morning, Bradford, and good morning to your viewers. Thanks for having me once again on your show. And yes, you're correct. Coretta Mcdonald, being General Secretary of the GTU and the President of the Guyana Trades Union Congress. So you're correct.
Well, you see, the GTUC. So I had it a little off, but thank you
Almost
very
there.
much.
I would have given you, as a teacher, I would have given you half the score.
Half of the score. All right. Well, as a former teacher myself, half wasn't going to be good enough, so I would consider myself to have failed in that regard. All right.
And in that sense, on the lighter side, you are factually correct.
Factually. Okay. All right. We're talking things proper right now. And at least even the half of the score on the lighter side elevates me above the rank of the one who has one subject, CXC.
I understand. It's Friday.
Okay. Okay. All right. So now listen. Before I get into things that are related to or pertinent to the observance of Trade Labor Week, and I know you'll probably have a lot to say on that. I would want to ask a question in relation to the behavior, of some people in Guyana who I don't know that they have a union, but I think that they have an obligation to Guyanese to ensure that they conduct themselves professionally, while we as Guyanese have an obligation to ensure that they are properly rewarded and respected and so on. Of recent, if I'm to borrow a term that is being used at a certain forum very frequently, I am observing that the members of the Guyana Police Force have strayed very far away from the professional requirements of their office as police or officers of the law or upholders of the law, not necessarily enforcers, but upholders of the law. I am from day to day troubled. I looked at a video last night that was sent to me, a video clip that was sent to me of the behavior of the police in the hinterland. It's moved from the city and the suburbs and the urban areas now to the hinterland, where the police apparently went into one of the areas in Region 8 and tried to foist their authority on the people. And apparently they were shocked to discover that the quote unquote Buck people were prepared to stand up to them. What is the official position of the opposition, the parliamentary opposition, in regard to the behavior of the police? I know that when the opposition was in government, they ensured that the police conducted themselves professionally. What is the posture of the opposition now regarding the behavior of the police in Guyana?
Bradford, let me say to you, first of all, or let me remind us that the motto of the Guyana Police Force is to protect and to serve. Over the last 5 years, we saw that kind of transformation. As a matter of fact, we saw a huge transformation with regards to how the members of the Guyana Police Force conducted themselves. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, we did not see policemen or a squad of policemen swarming people's residences and jumping over their gates and knocking off their locks and the manner with which we saw the aggressiveness of the policemen 23 years ago, prior to 2015. Citizens enjoyed a good relationship over the last 5 years with the police force. You found information was given readily by residents and citizens across this country to the police. Over the last couple of months, we have seen a sudden digression of the police force. And rather than going forward in terms of being professional and tactical and being able to encourage citizens, the relationship with citizens, we have seen, like I said, a digression of that. And so we have seen some members of the police force whom I guess were just waiting for this opportunity to behave lawless and to feel that they have the law in their hands, they are the law, and they can do whatever they want to do. As a result of that, we would have seen what transpired in Lethem. I think it's about 2 weeks ago. What has transpired again in another hinterland area, and what is happening even on the coast in Georgetown and other places. We have seen policemen who have decided that they will do whatever they want to do. The position of the opposition, we have been, my colleague Gita Edmond, who is the shadow on that, who's responsible for Home Affairs, she has been very aggressive with her letters to the Minister of Home Affairs, with her questions to the Minister of Home Affairs, and her total condemnation of the actions of the Guyana Police Force. The thing is, we have got to be able to have our citizens stand up and hold these policemen or the Guyana Police Force accountable for the behavior of the police officers, or those rogue policemen and sometimes women, because of their attitude. And I don't want to come across as saying that it's right, but because of their attitude, we have seen civilians responding and reacting to what they are doing. Hence, we saw 2 instances where one, a minibus driver behaving the way he did towards the police officer, and then we saw another civilian assaulting a police officer. Now, these things are as a result of what we do, what these police officers do to people. And the thing is, like old people would say, you can take so much and no more. I'm not saying two wrongs would make it right, but I'm saying as officers of the Guyana Police Force, you need to conduct yourself in a manner that is so worthy, that people would want to respect you, that if you stop a minibus on the road, the minibus driver would not want to drive away from you. They would have that kind of respect for you.
Or
Again,
chase you with a cutlass.
or that's what I'm saying. The thing is, respect, you don't demand respect. Respect is earned. And if you don't carry yourself in that manner, people would have no regards for you. And sometimes it's very, very disgusting the manner with which some of these police officers, they stop you along the road, these traffic officers, even sometimes when they have these roadblocks and they're doing whatever checking they're doing. When they stop you, their approach to you is what sometimes angers a whole lot of people. I can tell you, I had my own experience. Once, it was about 2 o'clock one afternoon. I am driving Albert Street and I'm going north of Albert Street. I'm heading straight down Albert Street because I was heading to the Union, which is at Wolford Avenue. And here I am, approach the bridge at Albert, between Albert and Church Street. That bridge there that you come across to go over to Church Street. There were two vehicles in front of me. We waited there. One vehicle was allowed to pass when the traffic was slow. Then the other vehicle was passed. And so I came to the bridge. I stopped there. I recognized there was a police van. The guys there who were driving, they indicated to me by the flash of their lights that I can proceed. So I proceeded across the road. But with that, them allowing me to pass, I suspected that they were going to come after me. One, because my car is tinted, and of course I have the approval for that. And two, they probably wanted to know who was driving this car. So I proceeded. Another car came after me, and then the police vehicle, rather than, in my opinion, they were going to head straight up Church Street, going to Irving Street. But they decided to turn into Albert Street, so they turned there. And I kept watching at them in my rear view mirror. I wasn't driving fast, and I kept looking at them because I knew that they were coming after me. And so we drove all the way down past the Albertown Police Station, past the fire station, just about to reach the corner of Albert and Crown Street, just by the nursery school there. When the police put on their sirens, they started flashing their lights, I stopped. Before I pulled in the corner, I pulled all four of my windows down. You know, those police guys, 6 of them came rushing at me with long guns.
That has become a norm.
And so when I recognized what they were doing, I came out of the car right away. And I said to them in no uncertain terms, don't come to me with guns. I'm no criminal. Don't come to me with guns. Back off. Don't come to me with guns. And I'm saying this to say, if they were intelligent enough and they were monitoring me, they would have seen me pulling all 4 of my windows down. They would have recognized at that point that there was only one occupant in that vehicle and there was no need to come rushing to my car with guns.
Can I ask you to back up a little? What's the statement?
Go ahead.
If they were what? If they were what enough?
If they were intelligent enough and they were monitoring me, then they would have seen my actions and they would have recognized that this driver, there's only one occupant in the car and the driver pulled all of the windows down. They didn't even know it was a woman because all they had in their mind at that time is 2 things. 1, they're gonna get a raise here today, and 2, whoever this driver is, they're gonna harass the driver. That was their intention. So when I came out of my car, yes, they wanted to drive. They thought they could have driven fair into me. I said, don't come to me with guns. Back off. Don't come to me like that. I'm no criminal. And that caused them to ease. And then one said, oh, it's Miss McDonald, the GTU lady. And then they came with a whole lot of apologies. And I had a real hard talk with them. I give them some real hard lash because I did not see the need for that. And this is the manner with which they approach regular citizens, and the harassment of citizens and the embarrassment that they put citizens through. And it results in citizens reacting. But again, let me say, the Guyana Police Force, the Commissioner of Police who's acting, and all the other actors that we have there, they need to spend a lot of time, even they themselves, to do refresher course and to remind their officers, their subordinates, and their juniors what they have to do and how they need to interact with the public if they expect to get full cooperation from citizens across this country. You don't embarrass people and expect people to want to work with you. It doesn't happen that way. You don't drive fair into people or think you can drive fair into persons and then you'll get the best out of them. It doesn't happen that way. And so that is the stance of the opposition, that the Guyana Police Force, they are being led by persons who are incompetent. And as a result of the incompetence, we have those rogue police officers behaving the way they are behaving. And we would have none of that.
I don't know. I don't know if I can necessarily agree that they are led by people who are incompetent. The reason for me saying that is that I have worked with Nigel Happy at the finance office. I have been on patrols in the company of Nigel Happy. I have seen Nigel Happy perform proper policing. My utter shock and dismay to this day is to understand how come Nigel has been so transformed. Because I remember on one of my visits home, I went to see Nigel at his office while he was serving as the finance officer of the Guyana Police Force. And some other things that are troubling me. I'm still trying to understand how is it that Nigel, as the head of the police force, will sit there and allow Marcia Washington to be targeted, belittled, berated, and all of those terms that could be used, those derogatory terms that could be used to describe her almost perfect and impeccable police career. How can they sit there and allow the government people to attack Lorraine Saul, with whom he worked? Nigel worked with these two women. How can he sit there and allow the government to attack the impeccable, unblemished record of Mr. Adonis? I mean, these things are bothering me. We all served in the Guyana Police Force finance office together. And now, these people who you know for all of your policing life, you're suddenly going to tell me that some 2B2 overnight politicians are going to come up and tell you that these people are criminals, and you're going to just leave it like that? Like, really? Instead of fighting for your officers, you fighting for statements of poll from the deeds registry? I mean, the registrar of courts? I am bemused, I am dumbfounded, I am kerfuffled, I am baffled, I am everything that you could think about. And then, your police officer who was assaulted by a civilian was arrested subsequently, embarrassed to the point where he was ordered, not instructed, he was ordered to go publicly and offer an apology to the police officers. And while he's apologizing, one of your rogue officers come and beat up the man to the extent he has to be taken to the hospital. Like, what are we doing? What is Guyana? No, I posted something on Facebook that said clearly, Guyana is not a country anymore. Guyana is a rogue something. Because you can't tell me that that's the behavior of people in a country. The government doesn't see anything apparently. They don't take action on anything apparently, except it's against the opposition people. So I would like to have an engagement with the shadow minister of Home Affairs so that she can explain to the Guyanese people what she thinks is really happening to Guyana. Because this is this is this is the worst. Listen, our police officers are. I'm going to use the word that was more often used to us, but without people having any idea of the meaning. They are crass. Most crass people I've come across in my life. So I
Bradford,
don't know how
Bradford, let
y'all
me
are making out down there.
Bradford, let me say to you,
Uh-huh.
you might be intelligent, you might have a whole lot of degrees behind your name, but
Uh-huh.
you can yet be incompetent, and that is what we have when you have all of these documentations and all of this intelligence and you cannot perform, you are incompetent. And like you were saying, you would have worked with the acting commissioner of police and you saw a different person then. But
Hmm.
at this time, if the police commissioner who's acting cannot stand up and decide that my role here is not a political role, I am here to perform a conduct or a service that requires professionalism, and regardless of who is there, I will be professional. If you can't do that, then you're incompetent. And that is what we are seeing happening with the Guyana Police Force. And so it was based on that. I said
Well,
what I said earlier.
yeah. Well,
And so I want
I
to
have
say
to
to us,
agree.
um, degrees and years of service don't make us competent. It's
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
actions, how we respond, how we perform. That is what makes us competent. And so what you're seeing happening there is who not fearful, waiting to be given some form of promotion. And so we
Hmm.
want to toe the line and we want to go against our gut feelings and go against what we know is not right to please some master, and that should not be. That should not be. If we reflect on what transpired while the coalition were in office,
Hmm.
I know Mr. Granger came in for a lot of lashes when persons were saying, oh, as president he should have acted here and done this. But you know what Mr. Granger did when he was president? He allowed the head of the institutions who were appointed there, or even if they were acting, he allowed them to perform their duties, to do what they have to do as the persons in charge. He did not pick up the phone to call to say, Bradford Burke, I want you to do ABC.
Hmm.
And persons did not feel then intimidated to speak their minds. Persons did not feel intimidated then to act the way they wanted to act because somebody would put an X across their names or somebody would do something to them. But that is not what we are seeing here. What we are seeing here is a total reverse of the manner with which not only the Guyana Police Force, but several organizations, the manner with which they ought to operate. We've seen just recently the workers at GPL coming on the streets,
Hmm.
picketing on the streets, picketing the directors, picketing the chairperson, the directors and the chairpersons, and they're asking that their wage increase be attended to and be dealt with quickly. But what you would have seen, the chairman, who is also the chairman of an auto dealership, who has the franchise for these Kia vehicles, you would have seen that director purchasing vehicles, Kia SUVs, for every director on the board. You have the finances to do that, but you don't have the finances to pay the people who are turning the wheels to have caused you to be able to garner the amount of monies that you want. But you got monies to buy SUVs. What is even sad is the fact that you as the director, you're buying from yourself. So this thing is all about I making monies for me and we making monies for us, and it's a very small circle where you have a few persons who can generate these monies and who can they have diverted from what President Granger then talked about, the good life for all Guyanese. They have diverted from that and they're living the good life for a few Guyanese. That's
So
the kind of craziness we have in this
what's the
country.
legal term for those kinds of activities? I know a C word that is thrown around legally and was slammed against the AP and UFC administration without any evidence, but I know it was
Yeah.
slammed against them. So I don't know if the same word applies.
Corruption in high places. That's what we have, and persons are comfortable with it, very comfortable with it. And we haven't heard anything yet that this director has been pulled in for fitness. Let me use those terms. We have not seen that yet. And the thing is, we have these directors, and many of those directors, as a matter of fact, they are not employees of that company. They are not employees of that company. So why is it you have to purchase SUV vehicles
For them.
or any vehicle at all for these directors? Why do you have to do that?
That's a serious question to be asked. I think that some of the financiers, some of the grant providers and all that need to look into these situations. These foreign financiers need to look into see what's going on there, unless they too have people who are getting kickbacks.
Well, you know what? We would have recognized that after August 2nd, the guardians of democracy, they have reverted to the graves. So you don't hear about them anymore. Sarah Lynch, you don't hear her jumping up to say anything anymore. Well, I'm not sure what is happening with Quinn, and of course, the other one, whatever she named, Chatterjee, whatever is her name, she got a whole host of issues to deal with, all the ash to deal with in Barbados. So you're not hearing her. You're not hearing her. She's very silent. But
Probably get
these
covered
were
up
the
by
very
now.
people. These were the very people who knew about democracy, and they knew about transparency, and everything that was clean, they knew about it. But all of a sudden now they don't know those words anymore.
But I have a question to ask about Sarah Lynch. I mean, I don't know if this thing has hit the ears of the parliamentarians as yet, but it's most fascinating. The allegation, I gotta protect myself. The allegation out there is that Sarah Lynch has been seen flouncing around the place, especially on the quarantine in particular, in the company of PPP people, sharing out University of Guyana application forms to fishermen and farmers and so on. And it is alleged that she has also said to them, stick with the PPP. Stick with the P. I don't know if y'all have gotten wind of that as yet and what you intend to do about that, because that is an absolute and total breach of diplomatic decorum.
Sarah Lynch, I think she really doesn't understand where she is supposed to be and what she's supposed to be doing. I think she's still carried away. And we, the opposition, are the ones who will have to promote these kinds of things, publish them, and let people see what Sarah Lynch is still continuing to do. And I wouldn't doubt that fact that she hasn't been to Blackbush Polder, or she hasn't been somewhere else on in Berbice, whether 5 or 6, flouncing herself around, because we saw her just recently at the cutting of the ribbons of the Welcome to Guyana sign. We saw her there. Sarah is so corrupt, let me say that she really doesn't understand anymore what is right or what is wrong, where she should be and where she shouldn't be. Apparently, she has been given the nudge that you're now Guyanese and you can meddle in Guyana's affair wherever and say what you want to say and do what you want to do. We, the people, have got to be able to picket Sarah and to let this be seen near and far that Sarah is no good for this country. We've got to let the Biden administration know that Sarah is no good for this country. As a matter of fact, Sarah should not even be holding the position that she's holding.
Exactly my point. Because she's not, as far as I'm concerned, I was in a discussion with someone not very long ago, and I was pointing out that I am not sure, I've got to do some more research. I'm not sure that Sarah Lynch is a quote-unquote diplomat, as an ambassadorial material. I think Sarah Lynch more or less was a military attaché and the Trump administration decided to promote her to an ambassador because they
Mm-hmm.
had their own aims and objectives
Yeah.
to achieve.
Yes.
So that is something that I am following up on, and I shall start making those findings known. And people who ought to be talking about those things in high places and running around the place, bumping the government, cussing out Mr. Granger, those are things they should have been doing, going to the U.S. government and talking with their connections there about these things. But that's not happening.
Yes. Yes. And I totally agree with you. The US then, under the Trump's administration, they had their own aim. And that's why we saw Mike Pompeo. I wonder where is he now? Maybe if you see him around the road and so tell him we say hi. Mike Pompeo
Hiding,
came to Guyana. Nobody
hiding
could
from the
say,
FBI.
nobody could say what was the purpose of the visit here. You couldn't hear anything, and up to now you're not hearing anything. Why did he come down here? You know, but like everything else, we are intelligent people, and we know how to dot the dots and to cross the T's, and so we know exactly why he came here. But you know what? There's another saying that old people would say, God don't wear pajamas.
True.
So Mike Pompeo, with all the pomp and scene that he had there recently, it is likened to one of the stories we've learned in the Bible about King Nebuchadnezzar. He was so big and pompous, and when Daniel told him exactly what was going to happen to him, he couldn't believe that. And then we saw his fall. And so that is exactly what happened to Mike Pompeo. He was so big, we had to put we had to grade down all of those sleeping policemen on the road, and so that he can have a smooth passage when he was
Right.
rolling from Timeri to Georgetown, you know? So big,
Yes.
so
Yes.
big. And but today he's wearing a different cap. And I'm sure he must be saying to himself in on many instances, if I had known this, or if I had done this, or we should have been doing this, or we should not have done that. But those questions, I'm sure he wouldn't have answers to those questions. And even if he has answers to them, he wouldn't be able to live comfortable with himself. But that's out of the door with Mike Pompeo. He ain't worth our time. Back to the scholarship
He'll
issue.
be talking to the FBI soon. No worry. I mean, they're
Yes,
crying.
back to
They started with Giuliani, so they're coming to him just now.
yeah, back to this scholarship business. I have
Uh-huh.
seen teachers from that same Blackbush area sending me messages to show me, look, miss, and photographs to show me, look, miss, all these persons who were given the application forms to fill out, they can't fill out the application forms. They don't know how to read. They bring it to us for us to fill them out, fill up those forms for them. And, you know, I'm wondering, well, I shouldn't wonder. Let me say this. This is the PPP in full campaign mode. And that is why you're seeing them, the ministers, going all over the places. And if you look at some of these places that they're going to offer these scholarships, this is COVID. And to be on those programs, you must have internet facility. You must be connected. How many of those areas, the residents there, have connectivity to internet? So what's this big show of scholarship here and scholarship there? And if you look at what some of those scholarships, what the requirement or the criteria that is being asked, some of them they ask for 5 CXC subjects, they ask for a first degree. How many of those persons who would have left school in second form, primary school, or some of them never had a chance to even complete schools? What are they going to be putting on those application form to fulfill the criteria that is being asked? So it's just an elections gimmick. The other thing that is notable there is the fact that the locations and the surrounding villages that have been chosen. And I'm asking myself, you moved, why did you have to go to Blackbush Polder? Sorry. Why did you have to go to Maibikuri in Blackbush Polder? Why couldn't you have gone, set up something right in front there at the police the Felix Austin Police Training Center right on the road there at Adventure. Why
Right.
couldn't you have set up your tents there so that you'll be able to pull persons from Blackbush Polder because it's easy for them to come out. You'll be able to
Mhm.
pull persons from Limnair, Nerney, Kildonan, Bushlot, Philippi, all those villages, Brighton and so on, all Evesham and so on. You'll be able to pull persons from Hoxtyle, Alness, Ulverston, Manchester, Liverpool, all those places you'll be able to pull persons from. Why are we, when you look at the selection, it says one thing to you, that we have two Guyanas, not one Guyana.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely agree. And the disgraceful thing is that when they, I realize, I remember when the PPP came to office in 1992. And people should know this is a trademark of the PPP administration or the PPP as a party. When the PPP um, came into government in 1992, at the time I was a member of the Guyana Police Force working at the said location where Nigel Happy was working. Nigel Happy at the time was a corporal. All right. And these people filled every single section, every single department of the Guyana Police Force with their supporters. And I remember clearly, I remember distinctly, because I was a member of one particular section, that you can't be Mr. Nobody and go there and function properly, right? They loaded them in there, and I still had contacts there, and my friends kept telling me, "Why we in a mess? These people, you gotta teach them even to spell their own names. I don't understand what's going on." They sent them even to the quartermaster store, and those at the quartermaster store started complaining, "Have these not know how to sew?" Listen, there was mass invasion, and a few months after, there was a mass exodus. So I was telling somebody this morning, just as how they're going to load them up into the institutions, they're going to unload themselves just so they're going to download, they're going to jump out, everything. The
Yep.
problem, however, is your people in those institutions where you have members of the union who are employed to teach them. They're going to have to deal with those people who don't know how to write the name or how to spell it.
Yep.
So I don't understand what's going to happen in a minute.
Well, it's not only the Guyana Police Force. We have seen that starting to happen in the Ministry of Education. We have seen that happening in the Ministry of Education. And just last evening, I was making the comment, and I was saying I have noticed several teachers from the East Coast. You're pulling teachers, particular teachers, you're pulling out from schools on the East Coast, schools in Georgetown and Region 3 and so on. You're pulling some teachers out. And I remarked that, wait, it's only a certain group of people or a certain race that we can pull from these schools. The other races, if you're here kinky like mine, you can't perform in those positions. Why is it that we're only seeing a certain kind of people being pulled? And when you check the background of these people, you recognize that these are the persons who were doing the dirty work in some of those areas for the PPP, and they are now rewarding them. So they're flooding the Ministry of Education with some of them.
Wow.
And what is happening there is that when they put them in certain positions, the people in those departments, the junior ranks or people who they override are the ones who have got to be able to give them the kinds of information that they need. And they look good when they get the kind of information. But in most instances, they don't know three hang about what they're doing. And these are some of the things that the union, because I can say to you, the GTU, we don't represent public servants, we represent teachers. We usually give advice to public servants who seek out our advice. But the Guyana Public Service Union has got to wake up and become relevant and stop fighting with all kinds of foolishness that you don't have need to fight for. and start looking at the real issues and dealing with them, we have seen every single Afro-Guyanese officer in Region 3 being transferred out of Region 3. For what reason? You never had complaints about these officers underperforming, but you've cleared the region of all the Afro-Guyanese officers in that region. And so you have a region now where only Indo-Guyanese officers are performing in the Department of Education. How can we manage, or how can we truthfully say that we're talking about one Guyana? And you know what upsets me most is when some of our religious leaders get drafted into this kind of foolishness about one Guyana, and they're signing on to one Guyana when it's glaring for everyone to see what is happening in so many areas, and they're silent on that. But they draft themselves in and draft organizations in to foolishness about one Guyana. It's really, really disgusting. But a time will come.
I'm happy that you have highlighted those issues, and I want to stay with the labor activities now, because I alluded to earlier, we're on the verge of jumping into Labor Week, and I have observed that while the Granger administration was in office, which is how long ago again? Like 15 years ago? I mean, like,
Just the other day.
Because of the current behavior, you would feel that people, it was so long ago that persons forgot what their behavior was during the period. Because I remember clearly, it's vivid in my mind, that the current administration, when position, were making a whole lot of noise about the Granger administration. My apologies. Oh boy. Yeah, my apologies. Somebody was trying to call in there. I don't know what was going on with that. Yeah, I was saying that they were making a whole lot of noise about the Granger administration not wanting to pay people. Matter of fact, they made a big hullabaloo of the Granger administration paying parliamentarians, giving parliamentarians an increase, and they're not taking care of the public servants, the people who turn the wheels in Guyana. And now, 15 years, 5 years ago, like, was it 3-4 months after? 9 months after? They have gotten amnesia, and they have forgotten that they are responsible for ensuring that the public servants are rewarded, and that they were the ones who were crying out. So I have noticed that the 2021 budget has been presented in Parliament, and I didn't hear anything about increases for the public servants.
Nothing.
I didn't hear anything about increases for the people who were, we don't consider them to be like public servants, but some people say, oh, them are civil servants. I didn't hear anything about increases for anybody like that. I didn't hear them make any representation by way of proposal or mandate to the private sector to ensure that their workers benefit from an increase. So what's up with that? What is the GTUC or the GTU, the Guyana Trade Union, what is it, Congress, as well as the teachers union, GTU? What are these bodies doing, and what is the GTUC doing to ensure that the PSU does its due diligence to the people who hold membership in the union there?
All right, what we have decided, what we have been doing, as we speak, we are having discussions with lots and lots of not only our members but our counterparts outside of Guyana, and we are here collaborating to put forward our position that we're going to be putting forward to this government pretty soon. What I can say to you is that the same people who were upset with the Granger's administration for giving themselves an increase are the same people who, when they got into office, continue to enjoy that same benefit. As a matter of fact, when they were parliamentarians, they never returned those monies. They never said we don't want it. They accepted it. They are enjoying it now, and they have no intentions of returning anything or saying, look, because of what is happening in this country now, and because of so many persons who have lost their jobs as a result of COVID, let us as ministers of government, let's take half pay. Let's cut our salaries by half and give those monies to those persons who are suffering. Because we care, you know, they always talk about because we care. But you're not seeing that happening. All that you're seeing happening now is that there's a switch of the coin, a flick of the coin, and they are the ones living the good life. I'm saying this to say the labor force, the people who always claimed and chimed in everywhere that the labor force and the people of this country and our public servants must be treated. These are the same people who we are seeing as being ruthless to the labor force. Because in this COVID pandemic, during the Granger's administration, we saw the labor force they were working 50% and on rotation. This fraudulent or installed regime, they have brought the labor force out full force. So everybody is at work.
So hold on, let me ask a question. Sorry to interrupt you. If they have brought everybody out full force to work, how is it that the parliament, the officers, the support staff in parliament appear not to be out in full force? Because I understand that there's some instruction that because of COVID-19, the various subcommittees and parliamentary committees cannot meet because the staff can't come to the meetings.
Well, you know what is happening there? Two things. One, staff of parliament have been tested positive for COVID. And so based on that, quote unquote again, based on that, parliament has decided that they're going to put their staff on rotation, on a rotational basis. The other thing is, as far as we are concerned, this is a way of timing the work of these committees. And so, because these committees could work on Skype, you know, we can work on Zoom. But this is a way of timing the work of the committees, especially the PAC committee. This is the government's way of timing it. And of course, you know, we have there as the Speaker of Parliament, the same young man, Mansour Nadir, who was seen at Pegasus in the crowd there trying to overturn the Minister of Foreign Affairs, then vehicle, Karen Collins. This is the man who's heading, who's now the Speaker of Parliament. So you understand exactly what is playing out here.
Yeah, the biggest rogue in the pack.
Yes, so we have all of these rogue elements who are now heading positions, who are heads of positions or heading institutions, and all they are doing there is carrying out the mandate of this dreadful group, the PPP cabal. That's what they're doing. But what is the labor force doing? Like you said, we have taken key note of two things. One, the manner with which the government is dealing with our workers, the nurses in Linden who are on strike, and you have decided to forego or to pay a blind eye to those nurses concerned because you have one man there, Smally Small, who is your man that you decide you're going to keep there. If you remember, Smally Small was given his marching orders one day, and the next day he was returned, that order was thrown out, he was returned to office. And so you have that one man there who's creating discomfort for a whole lot of nurses there. But you know what is happening there? The people if it were another location, let's say if it were Port Morant, we would not have seen Smally Small there. But because it's Linden, and it's Region 10, so you want the people to suffer there. because these people, according to you, they have never supported you, or just a few would have supported you, so you don't have time with them. Again, two Guyanas. We have seen the sugar workers coming out there on strike, demanding their wage increase for 2019. Even after we would have placed billions of dollars there in that dead factory, the factory that will no longer be made alive, no matter who come there to resurrect that factory, it can't come back to life. We have seen $200 million being given to them. But yet, at the same time, you have not decided to address wage increases for other public servants, two Guyanas. And so when we talk these talks about one Guyana, your president for all, foolishness. It's a thing that is written on a piece of paper, some words written on a piece of paper for the installed president to read. That's why when he's at press conferences, and maybe that's why he doesn't hold lots of press conferences. But we would have seen when he is at forums and he's been asked questions, he cannot answer because he is not the person in charge. He's just there as a puppet. But our workers, the teachers, are being owed. And what we have been hearing coming from, at least on 3 or 4 occasions, coming from the minister when we would have had our meetings, is they've not heard anything from finances yet. Finance has not yet, Ministry of Finance, they have not yet pronounced on it. But yet, we have not seen or heard we have seen the protesting of the sugar workers. And here is finance quickly making a decision, or they have to comply with a decision that has been made to plug $200 million into the sugar, to Gaisuko, so that the sugar workers there can be made comfortable. But other public servants, 2 Guyanas again, nothing is being done for them. But like everything else, the sugar workers came out and they received, GPL workers are out, and pretty soon other negotiations will start happening, and we're going to see other things happening. Like everything else, we are in the week, and it's so distasteful that this regime, they have no respect for anything at all, any occasion, any occasion of significance. We have seen just this month, we celebrate, this month was the month where we observe occupational health and safety. What have we seen? We saw a man, a laborer, falling to his death. Where is I would call him the minister of labor? Where is he? Where are his officers? All this big flounce about a labor ministry, and you have employed so many occupational health and safety officers and all the training that you would have done. Where were you and your officers when those men were working there without the relevant materials and to be able to protect themselves? Where were you, or where are you and your officers? A whole lot of talks. We have seen the burning of a mini mall. Where is the same man, Joe Hamilton? Where is he? Where are his officers? You don't go to inspect these buildings to see that they have the requisite fire, what do you call them again? Fire extinguishers and the different materials that are, or the different equipment that are supposed to be in these buildings to ensure that if you have a fire or something, what is the first mode of approach? Where are these people? Plenty talks. We have seen again this week, starting last Sunday, we have been observing Critchlow Week. Hubert Nathaniel Critchlow, who fought for workers in this country, 1 vote per man, who fought for equal rights for civil servants and the public servants. observing this week, and we have seen workers, the GPL workers, coming out on the streets to protest. And you know, if these people had any sort of decency within them, they would quickly hush down some of these things that are happening, even if it is only for the week, and to address the concerns of workers. But no, that is not important. You know what is important? What is important is shutting the churches. At funerals, you can only have 10 persons. At wakes and so on, you can only have, and weddings, 10 persons. But certain clubs and so on, they are wide open. Other clubs, their operations have been suspended for a month, and for this time and for that time. But certain clubs, they're open. So here again, this is clear as day. 2 Guyanas we have, not 1 Guyana. A set of hypocrites.
I noticed with a lot of interest the fact that you would have mentioned in your earlier remarks that some religious leaders have signed off on this thing. Now that all of these things have been revealed and are coming to revelation, has there or have you seen from your vantage point any of these said leaders that you would have alluded to earlier adopting a different posture or pushing back against anything that in their opinion is not fitting snugly into the 1 Guyana plan that they would have signed on to?
You see, the thing is, when you embrace, you embrace. And it's not easy when you embrace to disembrace. And we can only have persons who are confident about what they do, persons who are, let me say, man, and I'm using man here loosely to represent both genders, that you can stand up to say, while we have done A, B, or C, we have seen X, Y, and we have seen Z. And we are here to say that while we have embraced and we like the idea of the 1 Guyana policy, because Guyana cannot thrive when we are divided. We have to go forth as one people. We have seen workers in this section protesting, and they would have been given assurances, and they've been given funding to bring some sort of comfort. But we have seen workers here and there and the other, and nothing is being done for them. Come on, if you can do for one, do for the other. We have not seen that. And so I'm saying this to say, if we want to stand and to be relevant, to be counted as relevant, then we have to say things as they are. If it's a spade, we call the spade a spade. If it's black, we say it's black. You don't have to be, you know, I always remember what one of my primary school teachers used to say to us. She used to say to us, and that woman, she died, I think it's about 2 years ago or a year ago. Then I couldn't understand what she was saying to us, but I clearly understand now what she's saying to us. And I wanted to compliment her posthumously. Brenda Marks, she always said to us in that class when she taught us, and we were quite small then when she taught us, and she always said to us, you don't have to be in the crowd to be right. You don't have to be in the crowd to be right.
Yeah.
Every single one of you, you have the ability to say what is right and to do the right things. So even if it's you alone, you're not wrong because it's you alone. You don't have to be in the crowd to be right. And I think this is the message that many of us as leaders have got to understand, that your organization, even if you're standing alone, it doesn't mean that you're wrong. And we have seen that even in biblical terms and in biblical teachings, we have seen where the Bible has said to us that many will go the way that is not right, and few will go the way that is right. But
Hmm.
we sometimes see things. What? How do we see things? We see things when they're convenient for us. We see them and we use them. And when it's
The
not
div-
convenient, we don't use it. But you know what? Many of us, and I'm talking here to the Christian community or to the religious folks, many of us are going to be beaten with stripes. Many of us will have to account for the way you have led folks and for the suffering of quite a lot of people. Many of us will have to account for them.
so let me let me ask another question here. I have noted that quite a number of persons who have been put through uh, the unbearable, unacceptable, unfortunate experience of being fired from their jobs for no reason at all. And a cursory look of the whole lot of them informed me that the vast majority of them are Christians. And among those Christians are some people who are from my organization and yours. I don't want to be beating on any organization right now, but I'm just inquiring. Uh, our leaders have, according to the government release, pledged support to the One Guyana plan, which
To Guyana.
obviously, huh?
Bradford, let me correct you. One on paper, two, but it's two.
Well, I'm just saying. Well, let me say quote unquote One Guyana plan, right? And we have a department which is tasked with the responsibility of assisting persons who find themselves falling upon hard times and in disaster, etc., etc., etc. From your vantage point, again, I'm asking, as a member of parliament who is also a member of a religious organization, from your vantage point or the vantage point of any other member of parliament who is also in religious organizations, has any one of these organizations reached out to these folk with something tangible that is intended to help them to get through this stage of this stage of life, this experience, whether it be cash or kind or any form of counseling? I mean, was anything offered to these folk by these people who have signed on to this One Guyana plan?
I I can say to you, absolutely none of them have reached out. And I can say that with confidence because we have the evidence. In and among us are parliamentarians who, and I'm not talking here about the ministers who we have, who would have returned as parliamentarians. I'm talking here about some of my colleague parliamentarians who were public servants. Some of our support staff for the office of the opposition leader who were public servants that have been dismissed. Muslim, Hindus, Christians from the different denominations, and no one in particular, the Adventist grouping, we have not seen any of them being reached out to by any of the by the let me say by the Adventist conference. We have not seen them reaching out to any of these persons. We have several persons. Sorry, somebody came in there.
Mm,
Several persons we have seen who are out of jobs and they're trying to make ends meet, but no one would have been reaching out to them to say, how are you getting through? Are things good with you? Or maybe dropping off a basket of fruits, or maybe offering some sort of financial assistance. We've not seen that happening as yet. What I know, and let me talk directly to the conference here, what I've seen happening, coming from the conference level, I've seen a correspondence that was read, that was sent to the churches, and it was read in the churches where they're seeking the names of persons who were dismissed. I am not sure where that is at this stage and what is going to be happening. But what I need to point out to our viewers is the fact that, and let me say straight, it's good when we can help when our brothers and sisters are in need. But
Mm.
let me say this, charity begins at home. We have seen shiploads of assistance being given to our brothers and sisters in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But we have not seen that very same act of kindness being given to our own Guyanese citizens right here. Well, don't let me say to our own Guyanese citizens, to Guyanese across the board here who have suffered as a result of COVID. I've not seen that happening. I've not seen the business community, the private sector, reaching out and doling out as they would have doled out in this instance to say, look, I'm going to help, I'm going to help all boys town, northeast the penitents, and east the penitents. I'm going to help them. I'm going to help the people who live in Tugville and the people who live in East Stromville and maybe some of the persons who are living in West Stromville or in Eccles. I have not seen them coming out to say, I'm going to help the people who are living in Tiger Bay, in Alberton. I've not seen that kind of eagerness
Mm.
and the hype with which we have reached out to help our brothers and sisters in St. Vincent. I've not seen that across this country. And I'm saying, no need to live a lie. Don't be hypocrites. If you can't do for your own, it doesn't matter how much you do on the outside. People will still count you down to zero because charity begins at home.
I am I am kind of disturbed now over the fact. Listen, I want to encourage
Bradford,
myself. Uh-huh.
let me stop you for a minute. I'm not sure what has happened there just now. I can't hear you. So I'm going to sign out and come back in.
Okay. All right. All right. So we're gonna give MP McDonald a chance to um, get ourselves off and back in because you know how it goes in Ghana. Somebody calls you while you're on social media. You, you know you lost communication altogether if you're on a regular call or if somebody calls you. You know, I mean it's crazy. Again, the word come up, crazy, eh? But we're hoping that things would be better in Ghana soon. I want to, you know, I want to believe, as even as she prepares to come back in, that with regards to my organization, that the leadership there is working on a plan to help people who are affected, adversely affected, either by the COVID-19 situation or by the unfortunate experience of being terminated. I want to believe that the good people there are working on that. So when when MP McDonald comes back on, that's the statement that I intend to make. I want to toss that at her, so that you know, at least we give her something to keep checking out on our behalf. You know, because it's kind of disturbing, and it's not that you're beating up on an organization because we talking about the Assemblies of God too. We talking about the Baptists too. We don't know if they did anything for anybody, you know, anybody who was affected because the members, the persons who were dismissed came from different churches, I understand. So we don't know. And like I said, it's not about money or goods or those kinds of things alone. We're also speaking about counseling because uh, for you to lose your job, if you have a bank loan to repay, if you have a car loan taken care of, if you have babies in the house, you know, those are hard issues that people have got to attend to. So it's not easy for somebody to have been terminated when there's no evidence, no indication beforehand that you are gonna lose your source of income all of a sudden because there's a change of government. So people who find themselves in that situation help. Need help. I think uh, it's I don't know. We've got to find a way of getting around these things. And I indeed again I agree that the churches have got to come in. I don't care whether the people who manage the affairs of the churches are PPP and CWP, where they need to come in and pitch in. I was saying while you were off, MP McDonald, for a minute there, that I want to believe. Um, you're muted.
I was hearing you.
Oh, right. I wasn't hearing you though. So I'm saying I'm encouraging myself. I'm even chiding myself into believing that the good people who lead our organization are gonna work on a plan. They're probably working on a plan right now to ensure that those persons who were adversely affected will be assisted in some way, shape, or form. Because I think that is our duty, and I think that they're gonna fulfill the requirements of the organization. Because remember, Jesus, when he went to preach, if we're following his example, he always ensured that the people to whom he was going to speak were fed, they were physically comfortable, and then he took care of their spiritual needs. So
Yep.
I'm thinking that the church will do that, and the leadership will live up to the expectations of the high ideals of the offices that they hold. So I am chiding myself into believing that. I was kind of disappointed just now, but I'm encouraged by the thought that they might be working on a plan.
Well, I am thinking the same. I'm thinking the same thing too. I'm thinking that all of our religious bodies within this country, that they are on a plan, or they have a plan that they're going to roll out pretty soon to assist persons within their denominations, to be able to live in comfort. And Bradford, I can say to you, some of our people are really, really suffering. Because you know what? In some households, both the husband and wife, they were dismissed. They have bills to pay, car notes in some instances, rent
Mm-hmm.
in some instances. They have electricity bill, they have to eat, they have to facilitate internet because their children are
Mortgages.
at home, and they have
Mm-hmm.
they have to get them hooked up for classes. And so what is even worse now is the fact that it's 3 weeks since schools would have been open. Not almost 3 weeks since schools would have been open. Today, Friday, marks the end of the third week, and we have not seen any booklets coming from the Ministry of Education, the Departments of Education, for those children to be able to work those worksheets that we heard that lady Priya talking about all the time, willing to we're delivering, and we're ready to deliver, and we are delivering on our promises. 3
They're
weeks.
vetting them. They're still vetting them
What
to ensure that she's a preposition and
what we
the
have
like doesn't
seen
appear.
what we have seen happening is that they have sent out soft copies to schools, and
Mm.
the schools have sent out soft copy to parents, and
Yeah.
parents are there crying out because for one grade or one subject area in some grades, it's 4+ thousands of dollars to print those worksheets. Now, how do we expect persons who are out of jobs to be able to print those worksheets so that their children can have the work done? How do we expect in areas where there is no internet connectivity, how do we expect these persons to be able to have access to use their phones to look at the worksheets that were sent, or to be able to have them printed? And I'm saying these people are all just confused. But I'm hoping that our religious bodies, they are going to make some sort of way so that some ease can be given to public servants who were laid off, and even public servants who are still on the job. They can be given some form of assistance, whether it's to help their children, or whether it's to help the entire household financially, or with some sort of food stuff, some hamper that you're going to give. they're going to be making a way to assist our people to make
And
lives
counseling,
easier for them.
as well as counseling and so on. But let me segue to something else for a minute. Um, the what I wanna touch on a very sensitive issue. But before I get to that, let me just jump back to the Labor Week
Mhm.
situation. What activities do you have for the week so that we can keep abreast, we can follow, we can tune into persons if there are activities for people to attend, persons can attend. If there are activities that are virtual that people can log on to, what activities do you have during the Labor Week?
Well, Bradford, it's unfortunate that we are here on Friday, which will mark almost the end of Critchlow Week. But what
Oh,
we had happening during this
okay.
week was we had two activities. We had on Sunday last, we had the wreath-laying ceremony on the four courts of Parliament building. But because
Mm,
of COVID, we could not have extended an invitation for persons to come out there and participate. So we
right.
had just about 10 persons out there laying the wreath at the statue of Critchlow. And we had an address being given. On Wednesday of this week, we had Honorable Member of Parliament Roysdale Ford, Senior Counsel, delivering a lecture to students at the Critchlow Labour College, and these are the medical students that we have there, and some other students. They were on it wasn't Skype. I think they were on Zoom, where there was a lecture on the laws and you, with particular emphasis being placed on labor. And tomorrow, Saturday, which marks May 1st, which is
Hmm.
Labor Day and is celebrated throughout the world,
Yes.
Guyana will be no different. Yes, of course, we have COVID, and so we're not going to have our regular march through the streets of Georgetown, through the streets of New Amsterdam, through the streets in on the Essequibo coast and in Bartica and in Upper Quarantine and in the various areas that we usually have our Labor Day March. We're not going to have that. What we're going to have is small gatherings of persons where there's an address that is going to be issued. Many of them are going to be done via Zoom. But at the Critchlow Labour College, we're going to have just about 100 persons there, spread all across the auditorium and on the outskirts of the auditorium on the tents, observing the COVID guidelines. We're going to have persons there. It's five representatives from each union that falls under the umbrella of the Guyana Trades Union Congress. We're going to have them there tomorrow, and we're going to have the um, ST again, Member of Parliament Roysdale Ford. There, we are going to have the General Secretary of the Guyana Trades Union Congress, Comrade Lincoln Lewis. We are going to have Mr. Joseph Hamilton, who is performing duties as Minister of Labor. We are going to have him there tomorrow too, as well as you're going to have a message from the President of the Guyana Trades Union Congress, who happens to be your humble servant, and that is going to be done. That is going to be a recorded music because, like everything else,
Message me.
everyone is aware now that I'm an Adventist, and so tomorrow is Saturday, which and that would come into conflict with my religion. So I'm not going to be there tomorrow, but there'll be a recorded message from the president.
So what? I mean, traditionally, the Minister of Labor, who is usually very involved in all things labor in Guyana, and then to ensure that there is comfort among the workers and all that. Traditionally, when the Minister of Labor speaks at the May Day rally that he or she chooses to be at, um, the person is usually respected and encouraged and cheered and so on. I mean, regardless of where the person is from, whether PPP, PNC, because I don't recall the former Minister of Labor in the PPP's regime, the former PPP's administration, not being accommodated and appreciated and shown respect at the Labor Day activity. What role is this minister going to be playing? I mean, like at this thing tomorrow.
Let me back up, Bradford. We have seen that prior to 2015, we have always had two separate rallies,
Mm-hmm.
where we start off at the starting point, which is the assembly point on Middle Street, right
Mm-hmm.
opposite the Promenade Gardens, in between the Promenade Gardens and the Burnham Court. We have the assembly point there. We march throughout through the streets of Georgetown, the streets that have been designated for us to march. But then when we get to Albert Street and Wilford Avenue, you usually have one band heading to the National Park and the other band heading to the Critchlow Labour College. After 2015, we saw the labor movement being united in a major way, where we would have seen one May Day rally. So we would have had that kind of unity coming from the labor movement, and we saw one rally. So everybody assembled at our original assembly point. We marched through the streets of Georgetown, and we went straight to the National Park. And at that forum, we were addressed by members, a representative from the opposition and a representative from the government, whether it was the Minister of Labor or whether it was the Attorney General or whoever was designated to speak at that forum. And that happened during the coalition's period when they were in administration. The Guyana Trades Union Congress would have extended an invitation to, as a matter of fact, let me say, coming up to Labor Week or Critchlow
Mm-hmm.
Week, we usually have our trade union leaders or the two umbrella organizations, FITAG and the GTUC, meeting to discuss what do we do for Labor Day. This
Mm-hmm.
year, maybe, let me say that, this year maybe because of, and we would have had COVID last year too, maybe because of COVID, we did not have that meeting. But the GTUC did extend an invitation to FITAG, asking them to send 5 representatives for the activity tomorrow. We await, we'll wait for tomorrow to see what is going to happen there. But I can safely say to us that on the outskirts, in Essequibo, we usually have one May Day rally with our workers marching together, regardless of which side you happen to be representing or which side your allegiance is. We usually have one May Day rally and we have our speakers. The same thing between regions 5 and 6. We have one May Day rally and we have our speakers. But it's unfortunate and it's sad that in Georgetown is where we usually have this division. And I can say that this division, which clearly shows I am on this side, you are on that side, and we will not come to what you have. Before 2015, we never had representatives coming from, even though you would send invitations to the government, who was the PPP then, or who were the PPP then, we never had them coming on board to sit with us at the Critchlow Labour College to offer words of encouragement to our workers on May Day. I'm looking forward to seeing what is going to happen this year, and we know exactly what we have to do, or we will get the direct message out of this year, more so since we are plagued with COVID. I think leaders should forget about the politics, even if it's for the day, and come out there to share with our public servants and to express how your appreciation for what they have been doing during this pandemic, and to offer words of encouragement, and to say to them what you expect to do for them for the rest of the year. So I don't want to say what is going to happen. I await tomorrow, and I'll get a report later in the afternoon on what would have transpired tomorrow for Labor Day. But this
Okay.
year, we are observing Labor Day under the theme which says accountable governance, crucial to safe and a productive labor force. Accountable governance, crucial to safe and a productive labor force.
Hmm.
That's our theme for this year. And I'm hoping that those words are going to resonate with our leaders
um,
and they will act on this. Um, I'm not sure if I'm preempting myself, but I would want to take this opportunity, Bradford, to say to our workers across this country and to actually commend our workers for what they have been doing under these trying times, not
mhm.
only under the period of COVID, but under the hardships that you would have had to face. And yet, during all of that, you are still giving of your best. Even though you have been inflicted with that monster of fear, because we found out that in our workplaces now, workers are scared to speak. They're
Hmm.
scared to act because they have been told in no uncertain terms what would be the repercussions if they were to find workers, as simple as being on social media or commenting on issues on social media. If they find them
Hmm.
doing that, what would be the repercussions? And so I want to commend our workforce for what they've been doing. More especially our nurses, we want to commend you for what you have been doing during this period. Even when you're plagued with all of these challenges, so many persons coming down with COVID, so many other issues that you have to face, and even issues personally that you have
Hmm.
to face, but you still keep the wheels turning. I want to commend our teachers for what they have been doing. And Bradford, many people are saying out there, and I've heard even the Minister of Education say, oh, teachers are at home. Yes, teachers are at home and they're being paid. But do you understand what teachers have to do when they're at home? When teachers being at home now, they have to teach for extended periods. You know why? Because some children, they in their homes, there's only one or two gadgets, and
Hmm.
teachers are kind, and so they are facilitating some of their students and their pupils because a brother's got to use it and a sister's got to use it. So teachers are facilitating their students. Teachers are working at 11 o'clock in the nights with their students, some of them at 1 o'clock in the mornings, some of them at 3 o'clock in the mornings with their students, because students have decided, look, this is the better time for them to work, because at that time their brothers, smaller brothers or sisters, don't have to use the gadgets. So this is the better time for them. And teachers have been facilitating that. Teachers have been using their own monies, the little that they have, to up their internet services to ensure that they can deliver to their students. Teachers have been using their internet facilities that they have in their homes to pull other children in and to offer them their passwords so that they can have access to internet to be able to do their schoolwork. Teachers also have their own children at home to deal with and to be giving them their attention. So I want to commend our teachers for what they have been doing, not only for this period of this year, but for what they've been doing last year, and more so, those of our teachers who are preparing our students for CSEC and CAPE and for the grade 6. It has been quite a lot of pressure on teachers, but our teachers are surviving and they are making sure that their students get the best of them and that they understand and they are prepared for the examinations that they have to face. All in all, I want to thank our parents for the support that they have been given, and to our citizens generally who have been there and who have been very lenient with our children with our parents, with our teachers, with our nurses, and with every other public sector. We want to thank you for all that you have been doing, and we trust that you're going to continue to give of your support and to let us, the citizens, demonstrate to this administration what it means to be one Guyana.
Well said. That's a mouthful there. I want to ask two parting questions in rapid succession or a quick succession. One, um, since you've been asked to sit as a member of parliament, I mean, a member of parliament is, for all intents and purposes, somebody who is uh, technically equated to a minister in the government, but it's just that you're sitting on the opposition side. All right? Technically, you're just like a minister of the government. Has there, has anybody ever posted any video that had derogatory marks or anything against you or about you in it on social media?
I did not even have to wait to become a parliamentarian for that to happen, Bradford. As General Secretary of the Guyana Teachers Union, I can remember when we were when we had our industrial action in 2018. There was an entire cartoon about me. There were so many remarks that were fired at me. Um, as a matter of fact, even now as a member of parliament, I've seen some of the PPP lagoons. When I put my post up there, things that they're saying about me. As a matter of fact, even in parliament, the parliamentary secretary, what is his name? Ramkesoon, I think is his name. The pandit who's been ousted out of parliament. He said to me in parliament, don't bad with you, don't bad with you. You are Harman girl, you are Harman girl. But that did not move me, because as a public figure, you expect to be criticized. As a matter of fact, let me say, even in our own homes, as regulars, quote unquote, let me say it that way, we are being criticized in our homes when we do things that are right, we are criticized sometimes for them. When we do things that are not correct or wrong, we are being criticized for them, even in our own homes. So you can imagine when you become a public figure, you have to gear your minds and you have to put on that tough coat to be criticized.
No, but
And
I
so
mean,
I don't
you don't
know.
consider the criticism to be grievous and what have you. I mean, to take legal action to get people locked up. You never lock up anybody for doing
No.
it.
What I do, Bradford, is that I do some bit of self-introspection. And I look at, I don't I as a human, yes, sometimes they would get to you, but as is right now, I'm so tough that there's hardly anything that moves me right now. What I do, like I was saying to some of my colleagues yesterday, I would laugh at not the criticisms, but I laugh at my own self. I make it a joke for me to laugh about. Because the thing is, as a public figure, you don't know everything, and so there are times when you're going to make a mistake, and if you're being criticized for a mistake that you probably did not see as a mistake, you need to draw from that and to be able to work to correct that, or to work to make yourself a better person, so that you don't get too much criticisms coming from persons. But you see, the thing is, Bob Marley said in one of his songs, who the cap fit, let them wear it. So when you're guilty about things, then they have to upset you. They will upset you. And because you feel like that same little boy that doesn't understand what phonics is all about and how to pronounce words, how to sound letters and so on, that same little boy, he feels to himself that he's a little god, and nobody should say anything about him. But I guess time will tell him that if you want to be a good leader, you have to open yourself to criticism. If you're doing everything right, something is wrong.
Mhm.
As a human being, and let me refer to biblical some biblical facts here. We have been born in sin, and
Mhm.
so we are not perfect.
Right.
And because of that very fact, you're going to be criticized. As a matter of fact, when Christ was on earth, he was criticized, and that
Mhm.
led him to being crucified. I mean, that was a plan there that was already instituted to save us, the lost souls. But Christ was crucified. Even when he did good things, he was crucified. When he went into the church and he created havoc in the church because he saw men there selling and doing all kinds of things on the Sabbath. When he hit those things down and loosed the birds and all those things, he was criticized for that. When he healed on the Sabbath day, he was criticized for that. So, I mean, I am nowhere close to Jesus Christ, and Ramson is nowhere close to Jesus Christ. So why you can't
Oh,
criticize him?
oh,
But the thing is,
we got somebody who is being criticized and taking those actions.
but the thing is, as a public figure, you have to understand that people will criticize you. People have criticized David Granger, and they continue to criticize David Granger. While he was president, people said all sorts of things about him, but I've never seen David Granger taking any actions against those persons. Persons have been criticizing David Granger from last year, March 2nd to now. And I've never seen him deciding to take actions against those persons. What I think he has been doing is looking at those criticisms and pulling the strong points or the strength out of those criticisms, and putting systems in place to ensure that, things happen in a different way. And so that young man needs to understand you're not untouchable. Anybody could criticize you. More so when you're pronouncing words wrong, you get even more criticisms coming for that. So just bear that in mind. But as Coretta Mcdonald, as MP, as president of the Guyana Trades Union Congress, as general secretary of the GTU, and even while I held the position as third vice president of the Caribbean Union of Teachers for 2 consecutive terms, I have been criticized, but I did not hold that against anybody. My way of getting around the persons is reaching out to those persons to find out what went wrong, how we can correct it. And that is what would make you a true leader. That's what makes you a true leader. Not going out there with a big hammer to say you're getting people locked up and all kinds of foolishness. I mean, all like, you see, me as an individual, you lock me up today, tomorrow or the next day you're gonna lock me up again, because I will continue to say the things as they are. And if persons remember what transpired when the coalition was in government, I said to persons, as a trade unionist, I stand for certain moral values where we expect that our administration will treat workers with respect. And you must honor agreements that have been signed. And when you go against that, then you have a difficulty with me, and I will stand up and I will speak out against them. And so, because of that position, I have become even more popular. I mean, it's not anything to jump and boast about, but
Mhm.
persons have respected me for the kind of stance I took, even while my government was in power.
And
And so there's nothing wrong with being criticized.
that I know for a fact. That I know for a fact. You see, the thing is though, the difference is that you don't have long guns available to you so that you could go bully people. I mean, that's just on the lighter side, because I know even if you had it, you would not have been going that way.
But
Mature
but
minds don't
Bradford,
think like that.
but Brad, exactly so. Because I was just going to say to you that within the teachers union, as the CEO, I have a whole lot of authority, but I don't use that against our teachers. When teachers stand up and criticize me at branch meetings, I listen to them, I make note, and then I make it my duty to get to the teacher to find out what went wrong. How
Mm.
can we remedy this? Tell me what you think I should be doing different. That's the approach that we need to use. and that would make you a better person.
Yep,
Rather than
definitely.
using, rather than using the resources you have at your hand reach to get to persons. And what they don't understand is that these little instances, or these big instances, people will remember them for a long time, and
Yes.
people will mark you down for that. So let
Yes.
them go bravely and continue to want to ostracize and humiliate persons, because persons are not supposed to be speaking about anything. If you're doing something, persons are not supposed to be speaking against you. I want you to know that democracy entails freedom of speech. Democracy entails freedom of association. Democracy entails that I should be allowed to do what I want to do without being fearful that somebody will transfer me to somewhere far, that I'll have to quit my job, or demoting me or something like that. That's not democracy. And if you're going to preach democracy, then you must act and you must live democracy. Don't talk about it just for a particular period or when it's convenient for you.
Well said. I wanna wrap up by saying that when I when I was doing my when I was undergoing or going through my managerial training, I think so. One of the things that I learned is that if someone says something negative about you and you feel that it is not the truth, the easiest way to embarrass the person is to invite the person to a public forum and have them in your presence say to you that what I said before, and then you ask them to prove it. And if they can't prove it, they're just belittling themselves because you have the facts to prove otherwise. So the thing is that I would have thought that for me, you know, if it is worth the while, if I hear Jones arrested, Gavin Matthews run a video about me that is negative, I would have invited Gavin Matthews to sit down with me on my show. And I would have discussed it with him. I asked him, well, look, I mean, tell us where you got this from or whatever. But the fact that I am trying to use a big stick method and bully the person speaks volumes. The other thing is that if I ain't doing anything wrong, I don't have to be afraid of whatever video people got outside it. You can put whatever video you want. It wouldn't embarrass me because all that you may be doing is enhancing my service and my strength. Like you said, the more people criticize, is the more popular you became because they kept talking Coretta, 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 and people say, oh, whoa, well, she is doing something special. So we holding on to this Coretta. So if I were in that youngster's position, I would have first and foremost asked the people at NCN to invite Gavin to some talk show and let him say what he has. But I feel that they don't have any video. It's just a means of stifling, silencing the gentleman.
Trying to silence him, yes. Bradford, some old sayings are very, very true. Do something like so.
Oh
That
yeah.
same Ramson, when we sat in Parliament at one of the sessions, and we were debating the marijuana bill, and he was there and he was flouncing himself when it was his turn to speak, and he was going on and going on, and he made some remarks, and as a matter of fact, while he was going on, I threw some remarks at him, and he got pretty upset when I threw those remarks at him. And in Parliament, he leveled all kinds of allegations against me. And he said there, you, the Coretta Mcdonald, don't let me go for let your colleagues know that you used to visit the office of the opposition leader on Church Street. And I said to him then, you are stupid, because as the leader of an organization, if I'm invited to a civil society meeting, you don't expect me to go? I said, further, don't just make the statement. Tell all my colleagues and everybody who's listening, Tell them what I went for. Tell them what I got. Tell them how many times I went. And if you were there, what you heard me asking for. Don't just make the wild statement. Tell them. I said, are you saying to us that the office of the opposition leader, regardless of who the opposition leader is, it is a bad place? I said, come on, Ramson, come better than that. And so, you know, we like to throw things at other people, but when things throw back at us, we can't deal with it. So Ramson should be ashamed of himself. He should be ashamed of himself.
Well, I guess you know they said youth and ignorance can never beat age and experience. Right? Thank you very much
Yeah.
for coming on
Yeah.
today. Yeah, go ahead, make a closing remark.
You know, I wanted to make another remark about Ramson, but Ramson is insignificant. So I wouldn't even bother to make that remark about him. But what I want to say is that many of us as leaders, we don't understand what it means to be a leader. And because we don't understand what it means, you see, for many of us, being a leader is a big thing, you know, and you square up your shoulders. It's a big thing because you can talk to people anyhow and you can ask people to move and run and come and do this. And that's what we see as being as a leader. That's how we see leadership. But many of us don't understand that as a leader, you don't always have to be in the forefront to get things done. As a leader, because of your leadership style and your management skills, sometimes as general secretary, I don't have to be there to ensure that our teachers do what they have to do. I don't have to be at the general council meeting to ensure that the general council makes decisions that would be profitable for the organization. They know what they have to do because they have been grounded in that way. They watch your leadership style and they decide that, you know what, this is the way we ought to go. And if you look at what has happened, if we look back at history, we would see that many of our successful leaders, they didn't have to use that big stick of fear and victimization and getting back at you to make things happen. People worked and they did that without you even having to ask them to do that, because your style as a leader demonstrated what it means to be a good leader. And so what Ramson trying to do there, instilling fear in people, it's not going to work. This time, no long time. Long time done, short time late.
I saw that comment on Facebook and it had me baffled for a while before I could have figured it out. Thank you very much for coming on the show this morning. Thank you very much for imparting and sharing the information that you shared with us. And I trust that the viewers are better for being on the show, for listening, for watching. And it's always an interesting discussion when you're on. I trust that you will continue to be blessed and spirit-led. And your leadership, not boss leadership or dictatorship, as a result of your leadership in your various capacities, lots of persons will stand to benefit immensely. Their lives will be changed, and more particularly, since we're both Seventh-day Adventists, that our influence will, or the influence that we intend to exude, or we exude, will be so beneficial that those persons who interact with us will, at one stage, if they're not, they haven't done so yet, give their lives to God and make themselves available to Him so that they can all be saved, as we do believe, when He puts in His appearance the second time. Have a wonderful day.
Bradford, thank you for having me. And I want to remind us all that COVID is real, COVID kills, and that we should wear our masks correctly, sanitize frequently, wash your hands thoroughly, and please stay away from large crowds. If you have to be out, go out, do what you have to do, and get back into your homes. And remember, your life is important just like the life of every other person. And whatever you do today can determine your future for tomorrow. And it can also impact the lives of others, either positively or negatively. So let's be safe and let's remember COVID is real.
Thank you very much. You almost sounded like the president of Guyana. Well, the real president of Guyana, because somebody who's sitting in the seat of the presidency at every press conference, I believe, has the obligation to do just what you did at the end of the press conference, at least. But I've observed that that has not been happening. So you've done probably better than the president of the country has done.
Well, don't forget, Bradford. Those were the same people who said COVID was not real. It was an AP and UFC thing. So I figured that that is still not registering to them. Hence the reason for us being where we are right now with the amount of deaths in April month alone. We would have had, I think it's about 60 deaths we had in this month alone. And our numbers overall, we're at 295, I think, or 297. And if you recognize in regions 1, 4, 3, 7, and 10, our numbers are raging. And it is not even cause for concern by this catfish government. So I guess they don't think COVID is real.
Oh boy. Any word on the vaccine? I mean, like, what's your thoughts on the vaccine? What, I mean, any encouragement for the people to take the vaccine?
Yes, I want to say to persons, of course, we have persons who are having lots of concerns about these vaccines, but I want to say to our people, though, for those of you who want to go right ahead and to have your vaccines, do that and do that very quickly, especially for those persons who are having underlying illnesses. I would encourage you to continue to do your research. And whenever you feel that it is safe and you would have had been given enough information or you would have received enough information, go right ahead and have your vaccines. In the meantime, continue to apply all the safety measures and ensure that you are safe.
Thank you so much. I'm still awaiting a response from the Minister of Health. For the second time, I've invited him to come. Let us sit down and discuss strictly health. Strictly health. The Minister of Health and I have been, we have had a good working relationship. I was the vice president, one of the vice presidents of the Athletic Association of Guyana, while he served as Minister of Sports. And we had a healthy working relationship. So I am not sure why it is that there is the appearance of fear or some reluctance to come on the show. I've assured him that there will be no political discussions, no political statements, no political questions. He did one thing further than what he did the last time. I've been given an email address to put that request to him through the email. I have done so. And I'm still waiting because I would have thought that this is a crisis that everybody should be in together on and tackle. So I am still waiting for a response from him because I am really perturbed over the state of affairs in Ghana as it relates to the people's reaction and response to this whole COVID-19 situation. So thank you very much. I know, right? Man.
Especially when you look, consider the size of our population. Very scary.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much for your hour and 58 minutes so far. I trust that you have a wonderful day. God's richest blessing. Have a happy Sabbath and enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Thank you. And you do have a good weekend. And I want to encourage your viewers to be safe. Do have a good weekend and may God continue to bless us all.
Thank you very much. All right, that is listen, the one and only Coretta Mcdonald, Honorable MP. She says it like it is, So I said before when we started, I said we are blessed and highly favored to have her on the show. Never mind the Spectrum coming in. I don't know why they're coming in and trying to cut me out here now. But we were at the end of the show. Today I was supposed to be launching this GoFundMe But because of two, just two tiny bits of circumstance, I am not going to do it until Monday. All right. So, by the way, we have some things to work on together. We shall be doing so shortly. Have a wonderful weekend, people. Don't forget to drop some your little mites in the little places there. Andrew may have been distracted, so we don't have that stuff coming up there. But you have the Cash App, you have the PayPal, you have the Venmo. Whichever one you just drop it in there. We're gonna be grateful for whatever little things, bit of assistance you can give us. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. God's richest blessings to you all. Looks like we got to take ourselves out of the air, and you seem to be out. All right. I'm just gonna leave the room. Tata, bye bye. Have a good weekend.